What's up, everybody? I hope you're doing well. Naturally, at this time of year, I've just kind of been taking inventory, reflecting on how the year's been going, and noticing that I really have intentionally slowed my business down this year. Specifically, I've slowed down private practice skills. My part-time business, seeing therapy clients, has stayed exactly the same as it did last year, but I have slowed down just about every aspect of private practice skills this year, from how many hours I give to it per week to, how much output I'm creating as far as like making new things. And also, yes, how much revenue I'm generating from this business. And I don't often hear folks talk about slowing down their businesses on purpose. Usually it's all about growth mindset. How do you 10x your income in this amount of obscenely short period of time? And how do you make your business grow and get bigger and make more money? So I thought I would contribute my voice into the arena because, I feel pretty great about how I've approached my businesses this year. And kind of on theme with what we're talking about, given the time of year that it is, I am slowing down even more this week. I'm going to have some more chill vibes for my episodes to close out the year so I can enjoy some time off, etc. So I don't think there's going to be an extended and snappier cut of this week's episode. There's just this one version that you get to enjoy. Maybe it'll be a medium-ish length episode, we'll see. Now, there's many facets behind private practice skills, but the space that I put the most amount of energy into is content creation. We're not going to break down all my revenue streams in today's episode. I've talked about it at length many times before, so I'll link to some of those older episodes. I loosely structure things the same way as I have for years now. So since my primary hat as a business owner is content creator, I like to kind of see what's going on with the other content creators out there. And I've noticed that for content creators who are making content for years and years and years, over time tend to go in one of two directions. Some content creators will figure out the algorithm and just like button mash the algorithm approved direction to propel their channel into like superstardom. Essentially, you take your best performing content and lean into it, make it even better, make it more awesome, make it bigger, and do more and more and more of that. Or the other path I'll see content creators take is they just rehash the same format, same content over and over and over until it starts to get a little bit stale. And of course, I didn't mention the whole group of content creators who just stop making content rather than going in one of these two directions. And to each their own, other people can do whatever they want to do, but for the most part, as a consumer of content, I generally don't super love following other content creators once they follow one of these two paths. So personally, I don't really want to repeat that pattern in my own content creation. I think I would burn out pretty quickly and I wouldn't enjoy it. I think it's just all inauthentic for me. And so those don't really feel like options for me. I'd rather quit than choose one of those paths. So for me personally, I've opted to choose a third path, I guess, but I've made an intentional choice to stay small. Now, don't get me wrong, I never thought that this channel would grow an audience the size that it is now or anything close to it. But now that I see that the capacity to grow much larger exists, I've been very intentional about trying to not grow too quickly or too big. I forget where I found this referenced online, but some people will say that when you're in the 50 to 100K subscriber realm on YouTube, you're still considered a medium-sized channel. And once you hit 100,000 subscribers, you're crossing into the more like modestly large size channel. Of course, there's channels with far more subscribers than that, but I personally would like to stay in the medium-ish realm for as long as possible, and I have a few reasons why. One reason is if I can avoid it, I'd like to not hire employees. I've talked before about why I'm a solopreneur, so I'll link to that episode below if you want to hear about why I want to do this business solo. But I would like to not hire employees, and I think at some point, if I want to keep being successful as I get bigger, I probably would need to hire employees. I think most people would have hired employees by now. Another reason why I don't want to get too big is parasocial relationships are really dystopian. I have such a gamut of emotions reacting to the idea that like sometimes people recognize me. Whenever someone has come up to me and said, "Hello, you've always been so nice," and I feel immense gratitude. So I have that emotion hanging out on the one hand. And on the other hand, there have been a few times now where I've been recognized and approached more than once in a day. Maybe I'm out grocery shopping with my girls. Maybe I'm looking extra grungy. Maybe we are just on the cusp of a tantrum with my children. And to have folks coming up to me and saying hello, and then my kids being like, who's that? And this really weird experience of being like, oh, well, they watch mommy's videos. My girls are 3 and 5, so my oldest definitely understands that I make videos as part of my job. But the idea that like I'm getting recognized because I make videos that are on the internet, and these are people that I actually don't know, but they feel like they know me, is a really interesting conversation to have with my 5-year-old, and makes me consider, how do I feel about the fact that there's people who recognize me even though I don't personally know them. Please don't hear anything that I just said as lack of gratitude, but it's happening enough now that the idea of leaning into on purpose, make it such that more people will recognize me and say hello, is not something that I'm looking for. If there's anything to pump the brakes on that, I am happy to do that. And I think another reason why I don't want to grow my channel is already as it is, I feel so out of touch that sometimes people can write off my experiences, and I'd say appropriately so, because I'm generating income through a means that looks so different than the average therapist. So if I'm speaking to therapists and I'm not even living out a career that looks like what other therapists are doing, then who is this random lady on the internet giving advice? Fair. And that's also part of a reason why it's so important to me, amongst many reasons, honestly, but one of many reasons why it's so important to me to continue to prioritize seeing therapy clients. There's no part of me that desires to quit seeing therapy clients. Another reason why I have slowed down on purpose in 2024 is genuinely financially, I make enough money and I don't want to try to make more money. Like there's something that kind of gives me the ick if I imagine trying to multiply my money in this current financial state, barring some other life circumstance that ends up bringing a much larger expense into our lives. Aside from the cost of our housing, childcare is pretty much our next biggest expense. And my oldest is 5 now, and she just started kindergarten in public school this school year. So that has cut our childcare expenses in half now that we're no longer paying for preschool. And hopefully next year, my youngest will be able to go into UTK, Universal Transitional Kindergarten, which in my area is part of the public school system. So potentially as of, August, we will no longer need to pay for childcare. I know that that's something that was very specific and personal to my circumstance, but if you put yourself in my shoes and suddenly you could have the exact same life while dropping your income significantly, would you lean into still maintaining that income, or would you slow down? I don't know. Maybe different people have different approaches, but for me, I see those numbers change and I think like, oh, maybe I'll slow down how much I'm working. Another reason why I've slowed down on purpose in 2024 is, if I'm totally honest, I find myself like deconstructing a lot of conventional business and marketing and sales practices. I'm not even mad at other businesses for using these strategies. I'm really just deconstructing them for myself. That is, as long as the other businesses aren't using scammy or exploitative tactics. I've slowed down like how much stuff that I'm signing on to that definitely increases my income, but I go like, do I want to engage in that practice myself? And I do the little internal compass check, little gut check, and more often I'm feeling my insides say, no, I can just trust my gut and know that I'm not in a situation where I need to push for more income anyway. So I end up saying no to a lot of things that reliably have generated 5-figure plus paychecks for me in years past. And yeah, I see those missing from my bottom line. Hello everyone, Editing Marie interrupting this episode. For those of you who are watching, welcome to my incredibly messy home office / guest room / my girls play in here / laundry pile. As I've been editing this episode and I've been referencing how my income has dropped in private practice skills, I decided to look a little bit more closely at what the breakdown of those numbers looks like. And I realized that though there's a bunch of these different types of deals and things that I've said no to that are definitely, reflected in decreases in my revenue, there's also other things that have been increasing, like my podcast, for example, has grown by over 900% during 2024. So my YouTube channel is kind of slowing down, but my podcast is picking up. There's revenue that scales with it accordingly. And I forgot that I didn't run my Black Friday deal this year. It may come in the new year. Watch for that. I haven't figured that out yet. But my Black Friday deal often generates a significant portion of my yearly income. That just seems worth mentioning because assuming I had run a Black Friday deal and it generated a comparable amount of revenue as it has in the past, my income this year would actually probably be about the same or maybe even a little bit higher than it was last year. That just seemed worth mentioning, that really it is just a shuffling around of revenue more so it seems than like a shrinking of revenue. Another reason I've slowed down my business this year is it's so important to me to stay connected to the core parts of myself that kind of identify who I am. I do really care about using whatever skills, strengths, gifts I have in a way that offers something meaningful to the world and hopefully is also something I can monetize so I can pay my bills for doing something that I also love. But I don't ever want my sense of identity to come from my ability to multiply my bottom line or just put so much energy chronically into a business that I lose sight of all the other things that make me who I am. I could see for me the potential that if I really hit the gas pedal on my business, that it might be harder and harder for me to stay grounded and have that sense of my worth and my identity coming from a whole bunch of other places outside of my career. Another reason why I've slowed down on purpose is because for me, and I think this is backed by research if I'm not mistaken, slowing down for me fosters creativity. I'm interested in now contributing things that maybe I don't hear people talk about too often, things that I think about but often have trouble finding content about. That takes some creative energy because it's not about looking up what's trending or repeating what did best on my channel and making it better. It's like, yeah, so Marie, what do you actually think about this? Or even, not even what do you actually think about this? What are the thises that I have some thoughts about because I don't even hear people talking about them? And that takes a lot of slowing down space so that the creative corners of my brain can get the blood flow in there or however it works. That's not scientific, I'm pretty sure. But I know that creativity goes out the window when I'm busy. So by slowing down, hopefully I can produce content that's new and different, even if it's less appealing to the masses. Another huge reason why I've slowed down my business in 2024 is kids take up so much more brain space for me than they used to. I mentioned already my kids are 3 and 5. I'm so grateful that I get sleep now. As much as I appreciate sleeping and being able to go on date nights, back in those early baby days, for me, when my child and my children would fall asleep, I was itching so much to use the more mature parts of my brain that I would almost run to my computer to start working on private practice skills. I wanted to use my brain for something other than these like rote tasks to keep my children alive and nourished and, emotionally stable. Please don't hear that as me minimizing how hard it is because I cried a lot during that phase. It was hard. But I was itching to use the adult parts of my brain because they weren't getting used throughout the day otherwise. And now that my kids are 5 and 3, oh my goodness, I am using my brain the entire time I am with them. They are appropriately in the phase where they are asking so many questions about everything, which is great and exhausting. And so now when I have a break, rather than longing to use the adult part of my brain, I now just want to turn off that part of my brain. So it's felt appropriate to scale back how much energy I give to this business that is inherently using some critical thinking skills, creative outside of the box thinking skills, which I so love, but the margin that I have available to do that is much smaller. And kind of along those lines, I mentioned saving a bunch of money on childcare now that my oldest is in kindergarten, but also public school system, school days there's a lot of days where they're not in school. So I've just been adjusting to the school schedule, and genuinely, I have way fewer work hours available during the week than I used to when both girls were in preschool. And of course, as I talk about this, my mind just goes to how special it is that I have the option to say, do I want to just be flexible and work less so that I can be around my kids more? Like, that's not an option for so many people. And that is also exactly why I started this business. I wanted to have as much flexibility as possible as I entered this phase of parenting. So I don't know how the stars aligned that this is where I'm at, but it just doesn't feel normal, and I feel so grateful. Another reason why I've opted to slow down my business this year is connected to this fear that I've had since, I'd say, pretty early adulthood, that someday in my future, I would get to a point where I'd arrive at like having enough and not be able to see it, and then therefore not live my life and enjoy it. And I'm at an age in my life where I'm starting to see both that like I'm on the precipice of like my health doesn't get better from here, it just declines for the most part, but I am actually quite young. Hopefully I'm only like halfway through my lifespan at this point, and I have a lot of really good years ahead of me. And so if I have enough right now, this is a really good time to enjoy it. I'm gonna go garden. I'm gonna go on a walk with my dog. I'm gonna just hang out with my kids instead of sign up for more childcare and do more work. And I'm gonna prioritize that because, I have today. I'm so healthy today, and I'm gonna enjoy it because you never know how long that's gonna last. Now, I get as I say that some of you listening might have that goal still so far away. Like, I've had this fear since I was in graduate school over 15 years ago. That's still a really long time to wait. So I'm not trying to say that you can't enjoy your life while you're working towards your goals either. Please don't hear it as that. I just don't want to be in a position where I have enough and I can't even see that it's enough and that I can push the pause button and enjoy it. Well, that about sums up the reasons that I can think of for why I've allowed on purpose my business to slow down this year. I do hope that you're able to reflect on how you're being intentional about whatever career path you're on. What are some of the values that you want to prioritize and lean into? What are some of the markers of like, I've arrived at the goal that I set out for myself, and like, let's have a party here for a little bit, rather than just focus on whatever the next goal is. Because then it starts to feel like, as soon as you finish the marathon, immediately you're planning how you're going to train for the ultra marathon. And it's like, you know what? Why don't you just stop and enjoy for a sec? Anyway, my camera just died. I don't know how much longer I have. I think it's, the universe telling me it's time to stop filming this video. So I'm going to end it here. And before we close, I'd like to thank TherapyNotes.com for sponsoring this video. TherapyNotes is an all-inclusive practice management system. It's got all of your needs met, from scheduling to notes to billing. They have a HIPAA-secure telehealth platform and so much more. If you'd like to check out Therapy Notes, you can get 2 months to try it for free with no commitment just by clicking the link in the description of this video. Well, I hope you found this helpful wherever you might be at in your life, in your career, whether you have a business or not, whatever you got going. I'm wishing you well at the end of this year, and I'll see you next time with another chill video probably. I almost forgot to say my closing catchphrase. Until next time, from one therapist to another, I wish you well.